All right. This is Adam Stern, our first celebrity. And bloody hell, how do I say this? I love my life. I wouldn't swap it for anything with anyone. But there's very few people I might spend a second or two considering the swap. And Adam's one of them because he is doing something right. For context, if anyone doesn't know who this guy is, he's a big deal in the freediving industry. He's a champion, 106 meters. He's gone down underwater on a single breath, which is just bloody bonkers, if you ask me. I mean, he's been actively involved in probably the education of maybe 10,000 plus students now, if, depending on what definition you use. He not only was heavily involved in PADI releasing their freediving education system, but then has actually gone over and co-created his own, which is under the name of the world champion, a good mate of his, Molchanov's. And that's, I think, the leading system. Might be second, I'm not too sure, but it's the one I've used and have always been taught and then instructed through. But not only that, right? He's got a beautiful wife. He's got two adorable kids. They live on a farm in a beautiful part of the world, Australia. He's also got multiple businesses outside of freediving. And, aside from all of this, he's still got time for the likes of me. As you'll soon see, he has the infamous cackle. So the guy's not short of a laugh. And this being, the most followed interviewee guest we've had so far, of course, major technical issues occurred. We did the whole interview. I was double checking the cameras running, all this stuff, got enough storage. But then what I didn't know is if you press this button on the microphone, it mutes it. And about 10 seconds in, my pants fold in my pocket, press that button. So my microphone's muted this entire interview. Thank fucking God it wasn't his. Holy shit. So you'll hear a lot from him and you'll hear a lot less volume from me. You can still hear me, but I'm in the background. Oh, well, it is what it is, hey. This is his story, his pre-freediving kind of lore. I obviously follow my own interests, so we go heavy into the entrepreneurial journey, his love story with his wife, what fatherhood's like, and a hell of a lot more. So, without further ado, this is Adam Stern's interview. Alrighty. Sick. Okay. Adam.
Hi, Tim.
Thank you for joining me.
Hey, you're welcome.
You're probably the first official celebrity.
Oh, my.
Maybe. What would you consider yourself?
Yeah, a niche celebrity.
Niche celebrity.
Inside the niche, you might know who I am. Outside the niche, you will not.
Yeah, for sure. Very fair. For context, I often describe who you are.
Yeah.
Because I find myself actually mentioning you a fair bit.
Okay.
In the life of that.
There you go.
Yeah. Like, probably the king of freediving with that.
I
can't say yes or no, but these are the words I use.
I never thought of myself as the king of freediving. I more thought of myself as a jester. I'm very close to the king all the time, but I have the freedom to fuck around.
And who would the king be? That's a great one.
I don't know. I don't think there is a king. Maybe the jester's just always in the royal court, though, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true. And it makes it accessible for the common man.
Oh, well. Yes.
And I think that's exactly what you've done for freediving.
Yeah.
Freediving's been a significant part of my, youthful life. And yeah, you've certainly been someone I've always seen as a beacon for what it kind of means.
Yeah, for sure.
My brand of freediving, what freediving means to me, I think you have quite, through commercialization, all the rest of it.
Totally.
You've made that the brand. To kick us off.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the hair?
My hair?
Yeah.
I'm losing it, eh?
Well, you always got to tie it up, but then when you put it down, it's super long.
I know.
What's the deal with it?
Honestly, I've always had long hair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like having long hair anymore, and so I decided tying it up to get it out of the way. Yeah. But I'm gonna cut it short because I'm also losing my hair, and the time has come to probably just go short.
So why? Because I've always just seen you just
with a bun.
always with a bun.
Yeah.
Perma bun.
Yeah, big pepper bun. Because because I was always diving. I was always in the water, and it's always like I always hated having like salty hair on my shoulders and on my neck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always had it tied up for that reason. And then I think it just became such a habit that I just kept tying it up.
You never went buzzcard or
When I was really young, yeah, I used to just shave it,
yeah.
like like a little skinhead. But gosh, when did I grow my hair out? I started growing my hair when I was like 19 or 20, and it's actually just been long since then.
Yes.
But no, the time has come. Now we're coming full circle.
Okay,
The hair,
that's
yeah,
huge. Okay, so
yeah.
around that time, maybe maybe a good place
Yeah.
to start. Do you have any idea what the fabric of your mind was when you decided when you're 19 and growing your hair long? Because I feel like everyone knows you or knows a version of you, right? You're a very
Yeah.
public figure, as I said, in that niche. I don't think anyone knows any pre-freediving Adam Law, really. I mean, what? How much of that are you willing to?
Pre-freediving law. I mean, okay, so I mean, I think I went to university and studied theatre.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
just the thing is, proper.
might be. Yeah. No, I just I mean, look, so I grew up in a little beach town, but I wasn't a very aquatic person. I was very I liked reading a lot, and I used to read a lot, and I went to like I studied theatre because I wanted to be a playwright originally. I wanted to be a writer, and then after studying theatre and working a little bit in the theatre, I realized that theatre is not for me. I really like the theatre, and I really like performing, and I really like everything that goes along with it. I don't like the industry. The industry is very challenging.
Real quick, what that key point? Why is theatre industry a no?
Why is it? Oh, I couldn't deal with the level of social competition.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm a very competitive person, but it really felt like it felt very toxic to me at the time. The way that everyone was competing with each other for jobs, and it was always like, oh, who's got this and who's doing that and who's working with who, and I was just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I went backpacking for a while, and I really just to kind of like do something with my time, and I was writing because at the time, like, I still wanted to be a writer, and I had it in my head, like, I think I was very pragmatic in the sense that I was like, oh, look, I know I'm not going to be a fucking 20-year-old prodigy, you know what I mean?
But you got to put the reps in.
But you've got to put the reps in, right? So I went away and I was just writing. So I wrote a novel or two, and
Where are they?
they're in my bookshelf over there.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Are they anywhere else?
No, they were never published. I never submitted them because I also was like, look, I'm sure, like my mentality was like, I'm sure this is very good for a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old or anyone that's putting as much work in as I'm putting in. But I don't know if this is, publishable. Who knows? People have read it and said that I should have, but anyway, neither here nor there. But yeah, so I was just traveling around, I was writing, and I was very involved in my writing, and that was the thing with me, is that like any time I got into something, you know what I mean? Like there was I don't do anything, or I haven't done anything half-heartedly. Like if I'm going to choose something, like that's what I've chosen and that's what I do. And so yeah, at the time I would fucking sit there and write between 4 and 8 hours a day. And I just do it. And I treated it very systematically. You know what I mean? I was just like, well, this is how, if you're going to get good at something, you have to practice. And I would travel, and I would expose myself to as many new things as possible, and I would create stories out of it. And I'd sit down, I write short stories, I write long stories, I write whatever. And then I kind of, I think actually what to be told is I probably was a bit too harsh with myself with the amount that I demanded for myself. And because I think when freediving came along, when I took a freediving course just for funsies, I think maybe a part of me felt like, oh, I like this enough to give myself a break from the writing and start delving into freediving.
Real quick, I mean, not everyone. Very, very few people at 20 are doing something like that. Even if it's whatever it is, you're not doing 4 8 hours a day.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Where on earth does that even come from?
I don't know.
That's just you? Or
no, that's just no, not my school or my parents. No, my parents are very chill. My parents are like kind of like hippies, and they're just like, do what makes you happy, man. And no, and I went to a shitty bogan public school.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, Kincumber High.
They're
But
not watching.
no. So no, it was just me. Like I was just, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I don't think there's anything necessarily different from me than anyone else, except that I was completely unwilling. Okay, maybe this was it.
Yeah.
I was completely unwilling to do anything in my life that I didn't feel had value, if that makes
Mm.
sense. I was unwilling to do anything in my life that I felt like wasn't like steeped in meaning,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So like the idea that I would just go and like get a job found to be ludicrous. Like I would, I would look at, I would imagine my life like having some job or having some career, and I'd be like, oh well, what a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And I was seeking anything that would allow me an escape from what I saw as this kind of inevitable path that most people fall through in life or
To
fall onto in
decline
life.
into average.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like average has a bad connotation to it. You know what I mean? Because it's not necessarily bad. Like,
But you
some
said,
people are very happy with their. Some people love that. Like, they go to work 9 to 5, no fucking headaches. They come home, whatever. They enjoy their evenings. They enjoy their mornings. They enjoy their weekends. They enjoy their holidays.
do you think that's true though? Because I think there's still headaches. It's just they didn't choose the headaches, so the headaches are relatively worse, But
I don't know. I mean, I think that as a person who owns his own business and now multiple businesses, I can tell you that my headaches are significantly larger than my
right,
staff's headaches.
yeah. But for
But
them, in relative terms, that's still
well,
their biggest headache.
yeah, and look, probably. If I mean, I don't know. I've never really had a job, if that makes sense. Like, I've never really been in that position. I've had like part-time jobs here and there when I was younger, when I was saving money to go free dive and go travel. But I've never actually like entered the workforce properly. I've never had like a proper career or full-time job or anything like
Okay.
that.
And
So
I
it's
think
hard to
maybe
say.
I should have maybe added this into the introduction, but not just, there's Jess, this king of freediving, but I think in all facets, whether it is freediving, whether it's business, whether it's your relationship,
Yeah.
everyone who sees you as a bit of a beacon of that intentful living.
Oh yeah.
Do you,
I don't know. I don't know.
I would think, at least that's how I imagine
Maybe.
others do.
I mean, like, it's very flattering. It's not how I've necessarily viewed myself, right? Like, I'm not. It's a very strange lens to
Sure,
see
sure. No, no,
oneself through.
you can't say that about yourself. Then you're just a person.
But
But
no,
she's
I mean, there's that
gracefully
too.
accepted from others.
If you're telling me that,
Yeah.
then that's great. It's a wonderful compliment.
Yeah. So you were writing. Was that out of school the first thing that really the
Yeah,
passion?
100%,
Okay.
100%.
And then was it immediately free? I remember you speak Vietnamese. Like,
Oh yeah, I spent a year in Vietnam. That's where I did most of my like first stint of travel, let's say, and where I was doing a lot of my writing at the time. I couldn't honestly put me in Vietnam for a few months, and you'll see it flying again. But like right now, I'd need some time to trigger it because
sure.
it's been 15 years since I
I
was
do
like
my
speaking Vietnamese properly.
I do my banh mi order in
You
Vietnamese.
do you?
So yeah, like hey ladies, like mo banh mi, hiao wai, it no fucking love
I bet they do.
it. You have Vietnamese girlfriend? I'm like, no, I don't
No,
think so.
no, no. Yeah.
But you
Oh,
were,
fuck.
what were you doing in Vietnam again?
Just fucking around.
Yeah.
I was writing, like I was traveling, I was writing. I just went on misadventures, and they were pretty good misadventures, to be honest. Like, I mean, the first thing I did was I got to Ho Chi Minh City, and I was like, wow, I'm traveling, I'm doing this thing, right? And I met all these backpackers, and I don't know why in my head I thought, um, I had a different idea of what travel was going to be than
Okay.
what it turned into. So what I've kind of noticed in the world is that there are these like backpacking trails, right?
Yeah.
There are these trails where people kind of like they hop from one place to the next, and it's like this is the backpacking trail. We all go from this town to this town to this town. We see the same people along the way. It's all geared for bloody tourists in a way, to a greater or lesser extent.
It's kind of like almost you see retired people, cruise ships, bus tours. It's kind of the 20-year-old boys have that.
100% it is, yeah.
Mm.
And that's great, you know what I mean? Because I think it gives a lot of people just enough structure to explore a different part of the world with just enough freedom to have the freedom, right? But I didn't know that was going to be the case, and I at the time felt very disdainful about it,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm getting away from this. I'm going to go and like see Vietnam, and so I got on this random bus
Yeah.
to a random. I looked at a map and I was like, and when I think back, I think what a fucking thing to do. I just pulled out a map because we had
Sure.
physical paper
How
maps,
long ago
Tim.
was this? 40 years?
This was 2011.
Okay.
2010.
Okay, cool.
So I pulled out a paper map, and I picked a town that looked big enough,
Mm.
and I took a bus there,
Yeah.
and it was called Ben Tre in
Yeah.
Vietnam, and it's in the Mekong Delta. It's just south of Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, and I just got out and I was like, "Is there a hotel?" And no one here spoke English, like, no one. So like it was like crash course Vietnamese straight away, and
No
then
Duolingo back then either, eh?
there was nothing, you know. So I what I did was I found a library that had a Vietnamese to English dictionary,
Okay.
and I just started like, you know what I mean. And obviously, the easy thing about Vietnamese is that they use the Roman alphabet, so that really helps. So anyway, so I'm in Ben Tre, and I just find this hotel, and I start staying there, and I start hanging out with the family that have a cafe next door, and they're like, who's this strange white guy? And I'm like, 20, 21 years old, you know what I mean? So it's not like the typical, you know. And then through them, I met someone who was like, oh, so and so has a English school that he runs out of his backyard, like the local doctor ran an English school in his like backyard.
Not an employee.
Yeah, do you want to take over? I was like, fuck yeah, I'll take over. He's like, look, I'll give you enough money to pay for the hotel here, and you can just stay at the hotel and come and teach. And I did that, and then there was when that was happening, then the local Buddhist temple found out that I was there, and they're like, hey, do you want to come do the same thing for us? I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so then I went and stayed at the temple.
Like the little boys English? Or?
No, like the local kids, like just like the local
Yep.
school kids, you know what I mean? But the temple like ran like an English program.
Cool.
And so I went and lived at the temple and ran the English school, and then I started hanging out with the monks, and then they were like, "Hey, you seem to be pretty interested in this Buddhism thing. Why don't you go and study at this other temple? It's our sister temple." And
Did you tell them you've always started growing your hair out?
yeah, well, I almost shaved it. You know what I mean? No, honestly, I really liked the philosophy and the lifestyle that came with Buddhism. But in the end of the day, I didn't believe in any of the mythology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in the mythology attached to it. So I couldn't dedicate my life to this idea that I was like, this is a really nice philosophy. You know what I mean? I don't know if this makes up my whole worldview.
Yeah.
So, I dabbled and hung out at the temple for a while, and I, chatted with the monks and learnt what I could and meditated with them a lot, and then I got I was like, okay, well this is cool, and I need that, and I kind of need like this bit of a shake up.
Just for context, is this a few weeks, a few months?
About 4 or 5 months.
Okay, and how much interaction are you having? Because the internet's maybe just starting to be a thing, but there's no white.
Oh yeah, no, there's like I had to go to the internet cafe every now and then. I go like maybe like once every second week or once a week. I'd go to the internet cafe and be like, "Hey, mum, dad, I'm alive."
MSN Messenger or something.
Yeah, well, I used to just email. I just used to send them an email.
Yeah, and there's no white people going. You're not.
No, there's no white people at all. Like, there's just me.
Did you ever have stories of like some backpackers lost and you're like, hey?
No, and didn't see any other white people. Yeah, they're just not there, Maybe now, but at the time, Vietnam was different 15 years ago. It was a little bit more locked down.
So like on the trail.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So and then I've got a bike, like a push bike, and I rode it up the rest of the coast of Vietnam, just stopping along the way and checking things out. And I don't know, you know what I was really okay. This is the other thing when I was growing up, I had a reasonably cushy life. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I never struggled, or besides every person goes through various struggles, and you're a kid, so you're a fucking bag of hormones, and you're like, oh, I'm fighting with my friend, and that's the end of the world. So obviously we all go through those things.
Common middle class.
Yes, 100%. Yes, but I think that to some extent I was always seeking out some great level of challenge and discomfort to overcome. And I felt like I think I'd romanticized that idea in my life because I'd never experienced it. And I've been reading all these stories about these great adventures and these things that people did and overcame, and the sense of satisfaction and
just
glory. Yeah. That goes along with that.
I always have that thing of British explorers usually that go to some crazy, I mean, come here, you know, go to some crazy
Mm,
place back in the day, the tribes and whatever,
totally,
Polynesian princesses.
totally.
And then I always had the image of coming back to London and being in the pub and being that guy.
That yeah.
You know?
When you went back to London.
For them though,
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
can kind of parallel that onto your own
yeah.
life and
Like
be,
you're like, oh, I've got some stories.
yeah,
Yeah,
the old grandpa in the rocking chair in a place
yeah,
very similar looking
yeah,
to this
yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
Your grandkids don't even know.
Don't
Yeah.
even fucking know. Yeah, yeah. No, legit. Like I was seeking some type of adventure, and I
Mm,
think in the core of that, I was looking for things that were hard and felt hard, and I was like, well, I'm gonna do the things that are hard, and
yeah, Vietnamese push bike.
Vietnamese fucking pushy. There's no gears in that thing. There's one gear.
And that's not a flat country, is it?
It's not a flat country. Oh,
On the
well, I
coast,
tell you what, the
maybe.
coast is pretty flat, but
Yeah.
and I did the coastal roads,
Yeah.
but there was some hills. There was some hills.
Okay, so you're what, 21, spat out of Vietnam?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then you started but quit uni back home, did you?
No, I finished. I finished
You
uni.
finished
Yeah,
uni,
yeah.
okay,
I
yeah.
finished uni. Finished my
But
theatre degree.
so did Vietnam
Yeah.
evidently not fulfill that adventurous?
I mean, it did, but like then now I wanted more, right? So
Yeah.
now let's do another adventure. And so I started moving around different parts of Asia, and just doing the same kind of thing, you know?
And that's when you did your first freediving course.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is cool.
So yeah, what can you? And again, quite difficult.
Yeah.
What, dozen years ago? But can you put yourself in the mind of that 21, 22-year-old who did that first freediving course?
Mm.
'Cause, you know, I was terrible at freediving.
I was also pretty bad. I used to
Some people I know like,
Mm.
oh, I'm going to become a freediving
Mm.
instructor as soon as I get up from my first 10-minute dive.
Totally. No, I did and always have had a low tolerance to CO2. It's always been the thing that I've struggled with in my diving, and yeah, and it was the same for me when I first began. So I would get this really strong early urge to breathe that I found very hard to deal with. So no, and that stopped me from really feeling like I was a natural. And the thing is as well, in my head, I was like, okay, I'd set up this kind of paradigm in myself where I was like, I wasn't a natural, I was a hard worker.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, you know what I mean? So it felt right to me. It's like, it's fine. It's fine that, I'm not naturally good at this because I'll work harder than everyone else here.
To be honest, that's so true because everything I've seen, every time I've ventured on or witnessed to a great depth, a kind of a journey, a
Yeah.
career path,
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
say, path of progression. The people who are super talented at the start, they might get a fair way, but they never,
Totally.
almost never the very best.
Yeah.
Or like at the top level. And
I mean, talent plus hard work is the winning
for
combination.
sure, very top, but like in that echelon, the
Yeah.
people who start crap and then just work.
Yes, of course.
They surpass 95% of the time.
At least.
Yeah.
Oh, even 99.9%
Yeah.
is hard work. But I think in the end of the day, like when you get someone with a natural aptitude and they're a hard worker, oof.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you've done what, Wave 1 course or the equivalent of Wave?
Yeah. And then
so
I ran out of money and I went home. And then I was like, fuck, this freediving was really cool.
Yeah.
And I used to just go to my local swimming pool. Don't do this at home. Don't try this at home. And I just obviously had no idea what I was doing and didn't know any better. And I just swim laps underwater and see how far I could swim by myself.
Yeah,
Don't do that. And then I went back to the same place in Thailand where I learned, and I stayed there for do a master course there and stayed there for a while and trained, and then
so kind of approaching kind of instructor level.
yeah, I mean, but I didn't have any real interest in instructing in the beginning, to be honest with you. I even I was an 85, 86 meter diver before I did my instructor course.
Okay.
Because really I was just enjoying the diving.
Yeah.
And truth was, I got to the stage after I was traveling, my travel shifted from being I'm having experiences to I'm going to places to freedive.
Yeah.
And I was doing it just for my own joy. And then I got to the stage where I was like, oh, well, it'd be really nice. It'd be really nice when I go home to not have to get some shit job. It'd be really nice to not have to work in some factory to save money and then go away, right? So I would instead, I had this idea. I was like, oh man, I'm going to teach freediving,
So freediving really, just to really put into, was the first or one of the strongest things where it both was a difficult venture, but it could also be an implementation of your hard work. But there were other things that would have been difficult and you could work harder. Why?
Absolutely.
What was it about freediving?
The metrics.
The metrics.
I love the numbers. I love the fact that it was so like quantitative to go from writing where everything is just like
riding a bike.
no writing,
Oh,
like
writing.
writing where
Yeah,
everything's just up in the
sociology.
air, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just like, oh, what do you think about this? Is it good? Is it bad? Am I good? Am I bad? All of a sudden, I was like, I'm just like, fucking counting numbers, you know? My brain was just like latched onto that.
And you
Loved
did
it.
get into, I don't know, running or triathlons and they all got the watches and stuff?
I'm okay. I may have, it just wasn't the thing that got me,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it may have been the thing that got me. It's probably not unreasonable to think that I would have gotten in. I really liked cycling because I was riding the bike a lot. Maybe I would have just done like long distance cycling, and that would have been a fun thing.
Is there anything more? Is there another factor? Was there a girl? Was it just the water? Is it
No,
the
definitely
hippiness?
not a girl.
Like, are there any other
No,
factors?
look, I loved the sensations of breath hold and of diving. Obviously,
Yeah.
like it feels amazing. That's the kind of key. There is that like yes, you're doing this thing that is incredible and an incredible feat for the body, but it also feels really nice while you're doing it. So I loved that. I loved that interplay of like challenge, but also like peace and pleasure. And I think it was also to some extent like a bit of an extension from what I was doing with Buddhism at the time. Just delving into that philosophy. Yeah.
I've always sold freediving to people as this is the feminine art of surrender.
Why feminine?
Well, it's just that softer flow state stuff. It's not that.
Men can surrender too, Tim.
Well, this is the point. If you're a guy, I think there's nothing better than freediving because it does have those
Yes,
metrics.
it
right?
forces you to
It
surrender.
forces you to surrender,
Yes.
and it's applied meditation.
Yeah.
But you're meditating in a rock up in the Himalayas.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
how good you are.
Of course.
0 to 100
Yeah.
meters.
How good are
good
you?
How good are you at meditation? A big
Totally,
person.
totally, totally. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Okay, so you basically just for a lifestyle choice want to freediving.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So I, became a freediving instructor, and then I was just like teaching freediving in Australia, going away to compete, teaching freediving in Australia, going away to compete, and then it just grew and morphed and developed into what it is. You know what I mean?
Okay, we need to break that in because like I kind of have only started freediving a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. People are making full time money. Some people are making a lot of but the stories I hear of this period, that initial period, are just Wild West shit.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%, fucking loose.
So what? I know you lived it, right?
Yeah,
So it's like you can't express it, but can you paint the picture?
So there wasn't necessarily, there were education systems, there were ways to teach freediving, but not everyone really like agreed with it or subscribed to it. And there were a lot of like random people teaching freediving in random ways, and there were random education systems teaching freediving in completely random ways. And it was all just a fucking mess. You know what I mean? It was all just a big hot mess. And people, like, you'd get people coming and saying, oh, I did this with so-and-so. And you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then truth is, I probably sent, a few hundred people to someone else, and they're like, oh my goodness, what has this guy done?
Is this nature of people didn't know what freediving was, or purely that there wasn't a central organizing body, or a bit of both?
A bit of everything. There wasn't enough centralization of information.
Yeah.
And this is this is pretty much the main reason why I started doing things online, because I was the first person to really share the secrets of freediving online, because before I started putting up like free YouTube tutorials, that information was actively not shared. And because people would ask you questions, oh, how do you hold your breath? How do you do this? And you'd be like, take a freediving class.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Okay. So this is held behind
the paywall.
Yeah.
And there was this big culture of it, because freediving instructors were like, this is how I make my money, blah, 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 blah. These are the secrets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the perception. Like, these are the secrets, these are the tricks, the little things that like unlock the power of freediving.
So what allowed you to
I just thought they were fucking wrong.
And
do you know what I mean?
You must have created some enemies in that.
Bro, so many. You've got, like, I had a big target on my back for many years until people saw how successful it was.
Yeah.
So like I started making these tutorials, I started doing social media. I was like the first competitive freediver, not the first, one of the first. I was probably the first to do it well.
Yeah.
Started doing social, well, no, some people had a real good go at it, but like if you look at it retrospectively, it probably wasn't done that well. So people, like, all of a sudden, I was like not a top tier, I was like a high tier athlete, all of a sudden with a lot of internet fame.
Yeah.
And people didn't like that, and they didn't like that I was giving away the secrets, and there was a big target on my back all the time. And then people saw that I
How
was...
did that actually manifest, that target? Because I'm
Oh,
imagine
mate,
people aren't just shooting, like,
they just talk obscene shit about me.
Yeah, okay.
I'd hear about it all the time, and I'd just be like, well, that's okay, because I'm making a living teaching freediving now.
You're still having
And
to
you
go
are
back to
going
that.
to work,
Yeah.
and for me, that was the victory. But yeah, like it was uncomfortable at times because
Sure.
like I would go to places and people would be just not no one ever necessarily said anything to me, but there was definitely I was not welcomed everywhere.
Yeah.
And then that changed. It all just changed bit by bit, and then everyone does it now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's always interesting to think about the idea of a trailblazer in that sense.
But if you think about it, what the hell was I trailblazing? Because like it was.
But again, you're
It worked
trailblazing.
in like people did this. All I did was look at what people were doing in other industries and be like,
Yeah.
oh, that works. Why aren't we doing it? Oh, I'll do it.
But again, you definitely aren't the one who cranked the door open
Yes, for
in
sure,
terms
for
of
sure,
freediving business.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to a greater or lesser extent, for sure. But in that, I think that there have been some things in which I look back and I think, oh, I invented that wheel. And then there have been other things in which I look back and I say, I just literally looked around at other industries, at other businesses, and I said, like, what are they doing and what works?
Yeah.
Let's try to apply that to freediving. And wouldn't you know it, it works too.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, don't sell yourself short on that. Like someone has to do it. And
Totally. And any time that something hasn't been done before, there's a leap that happens.
Yeah.
To be absolutely honest with you, I feel like my whole life in the freediving business has been a series of leaps.
Yeah.
And they're very exhausting, if you know what I mean. Like, because
Sure.
mentally,
Yeah.
you think,
Well,
oh,
you're
we're just
carrying the burden of this obviously needs to happen, but
Yeah.
I'm the one carrying it.
Yeah, and it's a risk to your own finances. It's a
Yeah.
risk to your own ability to support yourself and support your family. We're going to try this thing.
Mm.
We hope it works because we're risking a lot in trying it,
But then you get the rewards from it if it does.
That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
and to be fair, I have had a lot of things crash and burn.
Yeah.
I've had, you know what I mean? Like I've had my failures in freediving. I think they're just not as obvious
Is
as
there one of them that you care to like what comes to your head?
so many along the way. So many small individual failures along the way. So many little things that I tried. So many ideas that I tried. I think probably the most obvious ones is I set up 2 freediving schools with partners that just did not turn out well.
Okay.
And I basically learned, and the real issue with that was that like we set up businesses with a really immature and naive structure.
Okay.
If that makes sense, and that breeds
Like that handshake deal.
That's exactly right. Oh, it's going to be like this. It can be like that, and whatever. And then as time goes on, like I think the thing is about it, what I've realized about partners in business, and people always ask me about people in freediving. I don't know why. Okay, let me put it this way. I'll start again. Anytime someone wants to set up a business and they haven't got the confidence to do it by themselves, they seek out a partner.
Yeah.
And it's the wrong decision. The right decision is to just like grab hold of whatever you've got to grab hold of and fucking go. You know what I mean?
Is that partner actually giving value, or are they, as soon as you take the first step and now you have the confidence, they're a reliability?
Well, there's so many things that could happen. Like that could happen, or I think that probably the easiest way to think of it is that like you have 2 people, right? Let's just say there's 2 partners, 2 people with individual needs in their life. Like I need this in my life. I want this in my life. And the business, if it's just yours, exists to facilitate your needs and your wants. Oh, I would like more money from my business now. I will work it harder. I would like to invest that money into the business because I think we can grow it and then I'll get more money later. Or no, I want more money now because I want to do this in my life or buy something or whatever. I'll take it all out of my business. But like if you have another person, your decisions affect that person. It's a marriage. You know what I mean? So like your life decisions affect another person and their life decisions affect yours, and the lever between you is this business.
Sure.
So as you change and your life changes, like that's just what happens.
And unless you guys see the business as a kid and its benefit is both of yours goal, which is very uncommonly the case.
Well, it's even look. I think even most people, I think that exists with most partners, and it existed with me. It's just that like my life changed.
Yeah.
You know, I had kids. I set up these 2 businesses, and I started having kids, and I was like, my life is so different now.
Yeah.
Like what I could offer that business now is just so different, and what I need from that business is completely different.
Yeah.
So like I'm a completely different person and the people I was partnered with were also going through their own changes, and were like, you know what I mean?
It's very interesting. And I want to keep us on freediving because we could go on a full entrepreneurial thing, and I'm so here for it and love it. The one question I do have is, you got into freediving as I say, in a very fertile, nascent stage.
Yeah.
Where there were so many of these obvious leaps that needed to be done.
Yes.
How would you go about it, or would you get into freediving, for instance, now?
Oh shit, yeah.
A lot of the big ones have been done.
Oh, bro, the big ones haven't been done.
Okay, cool.
No, the big leaps in freediving have not even begun.
Yeah, right.
They're just bigger. Does that make sense?
Are there any that are they secrets? Or
Fuck yeah, they're secret because they're things I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're like, I have very substantial goals in the freediving industry. Cool. No, but the issue is like anything. As the industry is growing and the leaps that need to happen now for the industry to transgress it, or to transform into something else, the leaps are bigger, and they need more people. They need more money. It needs more resources to do it. So you need companies with more money, with more resources, more time, more manpower to do those things. Whereas in the past, I did it as a one-man band. Exactly, I was like me in my fucking in my parents' house, or in my little rental, my little one-bedroom apartment that I was renting, making videos and doing, you know what I mean? That's what it needed at the time. Okay. Now it needs projects and some of these projects will take $500,000 to several $1 million to enact. Okay, so I guess my question instead is not you now would you get freediving, because of course you're still in it, but you 15 years ago as that guy who's really ambitious and wanting to do stuff out of his parents' or one bedroom. Oh, like if I was a punter right now and I was like, oh, freediving is cool, would I get into freediving? Yeah, absolutely. Or but in saying that, like, will you look for something else that is in a similar stage as freediving was when you found it? No. I would look for the thing that sparks joy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would look for the thing that I'm genuinely capable of waking up and doing, and it gives me satisfaction. I got to blow my nose in a second. But I just want to finish the sentence, or the thought. The thing is that when you start like any enterprise, any business, anything that you're doing, like it's self-motivated. There is no one's going to call you and be like, Tim, did you book that course? Did you call that client back? Did you get back to that email? Like, you are doing everything. You are the driving force of everything. So if you are not, like, if it's not giving you joy and satisfaction in doing it, then no, it's not. You're probably not likely to succeed at it or to get it off the ground. Yeah. So you got to follow the dopamine. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's actually what I've done most of my like work life is just really follow the dopamine. I'm just gonna write that down. Follow the dopamine. Let's put it on my shirt. I actually got that from my manager, Brandon. Yeah. Brandon's now the general manager of Freediving Family, and it's one of his sayings: follow the dopamine. I didn't think we would end up here, but by saying follow the dopamine, obviously you want to follow the dopamine, and in following that, it'll serve your life. That's right. So do you look at things that hijack your dopamine, like scrolling? Oh yeah, no, it's the enemy. Screwing you up. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't get stuck on fucking reels. Sometimes I get stuck on the reel. You're gonna get into that dopamine, and it won't serve you after. That's exactly right. Yeah. There's nothing to gain out of scrolling, except if you're a content creator and you're looking for ideas or music or songs or whatever, you know? Yeah. But no, for the most part, like, and everyone's different, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not a person, genuinely not a person who is capable of, like I said, like doing something that I don't find there to be like an intrinsic meaning or value for myself, at least. Not necessarily for the world, but for myself. And so, I think a lot of that comes down to creating, not consuming as well. Potentially, but like I have no issue with consuming. Like I do consume, especially gosh. But you could argue it's a valuable consumption because then it allows batteries to then. Well, but yeah, that's right. Potentially, it all depends on how you recharge, right? Yeah. Before I had kids, I used to love playing video games. Okay. So that's how I'd recharge. I'd just game out and I'd be like, I'm ready to go. Yeah. Now that I have kids, that does not happen. So, do I recharge? Probably not. No, I don't know. My brain, it's interesting how your brain changes when you become a parent. You cope really differently. Fuck me, your mental capacity after you've had kids is so much more significant than
Really?
before you had. Oh, fuck yeah! Like what I can deal with now compared to what I could deal with before is immense.
Do you think? Okay, because we didn't fully get into the competition side of things.
Mm.
So, for instance, with your current brain, do you reckon you'd be a weapon if you channel into competitive freediving?
Yes and no. The other thing is that my amygdala is like 3 or 4 times the size that it used to be.
Amygdala, that's the one that's like your
Fear,
oh,
and
fear, is it?
yeah,
Oh, I thought it was the David Goggins one,
yeah.
like the willpower.
Well, it's there's a. I mean,
Okay.
it does a lot of things, but I
So
just
you're more scared or more risk averse?
much more risk averse. So
Yeah.
parents in general, put it this way, not every parent, but any person that is a primary carer of a child has significant swelling or growth of their amygdala.
That's interesting.
And I was a very hands-on, very active parent. Like when my daughter was born, I like took everything off for months and just stayed at home. It was just being a dad. And then because I've got this wonderful lifestyle that allows me to work in these like short stints where like I go away, we do a big trip, we do a thing, and I come home and I just chill. So I am uh, at least half of the time like a primary carer for the kids. And yeah, so I've got a big amygdala.
So that competitive freediving's not really the way.
Basically, like okay, my capacity to deal with life and cope has grown significantly because of the challenges and the uh, redefining and sort of restructuring of the way I see the world and what's important, and what's not. But could I be a better competitive freediver now than when I was younger? I don't think so. I think I was happier to take more risks when I was younger, and I don't know if that is the thing that would have made me better. It certainly. There were times when taking risks did allow me to leap forward.
Yeah.
And maybe, would I be better now? Maybe I'd approach things more
You might have more
systematically,
technically good equalization, but your
more
just
in,
mindset and your drive and will to go deeper might not be there as much.
true. Well, or just the willingness to take risks. But then again, like I think you can get very deep. I think you can get the deepest without taking unnecessary risks. So I don't know. I think it's probably it's a complex scenario.
It's so interesting that you say that through whether it's parenthood or just life in general challenges, because I think everyone can relate to that in just the sense that the fabric of your mind, and you hinted on it before as a 16-year-old,
Yeah.
and your problems are so much smaller.
Yeah.
Even if you are living one of those quote unquote average lives,
Totally.
still having to pay the rent is a bigger issue than
Oh
your
yeah.
friend not,
Well, there's a
speaking much.
very famous Vietnamese saying.
Mhm.
It's big boat, big wave.
Okay. Yeah, big boat.
Right? Like, if you get a bigger boat, there'll be a bigger wave. If you have a
Yeah.
small boat, there'll be a smaller wave.
Yeah,
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Makes sense. Yeah, I was breaking this down once, and I don't know how relevant this is, but it was when you're thinking about life, and I was tying it into the pursuit of money.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can be a homeless person walking around.
Yeah.
And yes, I have no money, but I also don't need much money because I'm just
No.
working and eating a few food. Then I suddenly buy a bike, and so I might need a bit more money to have the maintenance of the bike. Then it's car. Then it's plane and economy. Then it's business class. Then it's private jet. Yes, you need the private jet because you go into all these crazy business meetings and you have to be here in 4 hours. And that pays for the private jet, but then you need to use the private jet to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Weird...
I mean, yeah. I mean, like it self perpetuates in a way. Yeah. For sure.
And what speed and level do you want to run at, and that will just be feed itself.
And that's the thing. I think there's what I've found really interesting as well is that I think that like current entrepreneur culture, it's very bro-ish. It's very like, you've got to be up at 5 a.m. every morning, and you've got to work harder than the next person, and you've got to work and work and work and work, and you've got to go, and and then you can have the cars and the houses and the this, and it's like, that's not a nice life. Do you know what I mean?
I think that last line, and then you can have the cars and the houses.
Yeah.
But if you spent even any motive of energy and time on deciding whether you actually want those cars,
100%.
maybe you could have avoided waking up at 5 a.m. Maybe for what you want, which might be a farmhouse with some goats,
100%.
you can wake up at 9.
That's right. My goal in life was always to, very simply, not go to work. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to work. And I have accomplished that in that I've never felt that my job was work. And then if I ever get to the stage where I feel like my job is work, I will downsize my life to the point where I don't have to do any of it anymore. Um,
So
it's time. Time is the currency. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I often call myself an aspiringly useful hippie, and I feel you might, in a sense, fit that mold of you,
Yeah, potentially.
right?
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
you kind of just want to relax and do chill, but you also have a sense of wanting to be useful to yourself and others.
I like doing things. I'm not the type of person who can just sort of relax and chill for too long.
Yeah.
Like, okay, even here, like we're on a farm, right? And like if I have time, I'll just get out there and start making shit.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Like
Like,
a new person that no one's telling
yeah,
you need to rock up to.
that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
when do I do it? When I'm good and damn ready. You know what I mean? Like I do it when I feel like it. Like after I've had my morning coffee and my 3 hours sitting on the deck talking shit with my wife. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And,
I really I don't like deadlines and I don't like schedules and I don't like having to be places at a certain time. My brain rebels against it. If I have something on the calendar like every week, same time every week, I will unconsciously like rebel against that.
really?
Yeah. Even if it's me that's made the thing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Like I'm just trying to grapple with this
Mm,
because in from the outside, I can see how you can trust yourself to not be a useless slob.
totally.
Because I mean, from the start, you're writing 8 hours a day. Like no one does that. But for someone who maybe hasn't built a stack of evidence behind them, that
Mm,
yeah, I'm not gonna let myself be a slob because I still will build that thing. Yes, it might be
yeah.
3 hours, but I still will do it.
But I mean, are people out there worried that they're going to be a useless slob?
I think that's a reason why you might go for that structure and that deadline and that wage job
Oh, it works for some people.
because you don't have to use your willpower and
That's right.
getting yourself up off the couch after 3 hours.
Look, like doing your own thing or being your own boss is actually not for everyone.
Mm,
And I know sometimes it's touted as like this is like success. It's really not for everyone. Like there's a lot of headache and bullshit that goes along with having your own enterprise, whatever
yeah.
it may be. And in the end of the day, the buck always stops with you. You will make as much money as you want to because it will be reflective of what you're putting in,
Mm.
whether that's time or energy or effort or ideas or time you spend developing yourself and developing your
The skills
business or
that
whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So but it always ends with you, and you're the one that has to pick yourself up off the ground and make yourself do it. And if that's not something that you can do intrinsically, then it might not be for you. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man, sometimes I wish I could just go to work now
Mm.
after I spent my whole life trying not to do it. I do have moments where I wish I could, wouldn't it be nice to just turn up, do some job that was not terribly unpleasant,
Yeah.
and then just be like, going home now?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it'd be cool. I think this is the thing. When you have a job, you know that what you get out of it, what your life will look like when you
Mm,
do that. You also know what you'll pay for that.
mm,
So you know the price and you know the product. When you go on that do-it-yourself entrepreneurial journey,
mm,
you don't really know. You have a dream of what the product looks like, and it's good, great.
totally.
You don't know what it will look like for you in reality,
No.
and you don't know the price. What you're going to sacrifice, what you're going to have to actually do to get
Well,
there.
you'll sacrifice everything.
Yeah,
Well, depending on what you want out of it, right?
yeah.
Well, that's the other thing is that like what I sometimes realize that other people don't deal with is that I've never not been at work since I started my own business. I've never not been on the clock. I've
Mm.
never not been available. I've never not been at work. I don't know what it's like to put the phone down and not be like, why would I pick up that call?
Yeah.
Like you could call me any time of the day
I mean, you're
and I'll
always active on Facebook.
pick it up. Well, not yes and no.
No,
Like,
as in there must be a tab open
oh
somewhere.
yeah, there is definitely a tab open
Yeah,
somewhere. What I do is I do a lot of leaving on people on red
yeah.
because what I do is I'll read every message that comes in, and if it's urgent, I'll get back, and if it's not, I'll mark the message as unread so I know to get back to it later,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I deal with that when I've got time.
You know, for context, I mean, I texted you about this weeks ago,
Mm.
and then like I just like to make sure it's all good, and then a few days ago I was like, yeah, what's your address like? And then yesterday I was like, hey,
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, he needs to know now. Boom.
I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
I definitely don't take it personally, but it also requires me to actually.
Yeah. I mean, totally.
Okay, so taking us back onto the timeline of
Yeah.
things, what made you stop competitively freediving?
I was wrapping it up anyway,
Okay.
mentally, whether I knew it at the time or not.
Because you hit, what, 106 meters at
Yeah,
the deepest?
yeah.
Was this like, I need to get to 100 and then you
No, I wanted to be the deepest. I wanted to be the
Okay.
best.
And at the time, who was the deepest? What was
At the
that?
time, it was Alexi still.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was, do you remember the number?
At the time, it was 126 because I
Okay.
was 20 meters away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 126 was the world record, or 100, or 128. So anyway, one of those. And so basically in 2020, my wife and I and our daughter, we moved to the Philippines, so I could train depth full time. So I just train, compete like full time. And I was like, this is what I need now to go to the next level. Like I like the life that I've been living where I'm based in Australia. I train in the pool and the gym in Australia. Yeah, but then I go away and I train depth for periods in the year. I was like, this is not going to get me to where I need. I need to go and have access to deep water all the time. So we moved to the Philippines, and then 2 months later, fucking COVID came along.
Really?
Yeah, and then we went back home, and I was like, what are we going to do? We just moved overseas. Anyway, we went back to our house and started living life. And in the beginning, we were like, how long is it going to last? A few weeks, we'll be out of lockdown, right? And then there's a few months, we'll be out of lockdown. And I was like, wow, this is really going to go on for a long time. And then I realized that then they're like, it's going to be years. And I was like, shit. So we bought a farm.
Yeah, so that's when you got this place.
Yeah, not this place. We had another property down the road. We bought a farm, a vacant lot, and I built a tiny house, and we lived in it for 2 years. And yeah, that's what we did. And I was still training for the first few months, and then after a while, I was like, why am I training? Why am I still doing this? Because it's going to be too long. Like I don't even know. I kind of felt like there was very little reason to keep doing it, and so I just stopped training. And then 2-3 years had gone by, and I'm like, here I am. And then I had 2 kids by then. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, do I still feel the drive to go? And when the world opened again, I was like, do I feel the drive to go and compete again? Do I feel like I want to drag my family around the world constantly? And the answer was no. And so I just sort of like quietly in my head over a matter of years decided to just sort of exit. Yeah.
No, cool. And I think, at least what I've seen, because that's maybe a similar time when I got into it for the first time. And certainly since I've been around, you've been doing the business side and the commercialization side, which obviously serves your family way better.
Yes, exactly. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
That's kind of clear. Okay, so talking about your family.
Yeah.
Erin.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw her.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're bloody in love. Like, what was the love story?
We fucking hope so.
You see, again, I think in a lot of ways, people who, whether they know you through Instagram or YouTube or Deepwix or something, even if it is this persona, which I don't think it is, but even if it is like a surface level thing, you at least give off that beacon of, he's doing something right. Like, I think the people who like you at least think of that, and I'm sure for most of them, especially the ones I've talked to, that also reflects onto your relationship. And
Totally. I mean, like, if you're not, my relationship is good.
So how did it start? Like,
so it started with Erin. Erin, this would have been like 2016 or something like that. Paddy came out with a freediving program, right? And Erin worked on the Paddy marketing team, and so I became an ambassador for Paddy, and I was
scuba diver? Or?
Yeah, and. All right. Let's keep over. So I met Erin because she was the person who handled the ambassadors, and Paddy also got me to run like an in-house freediving course for some of their staff,
okay, cool.
So they could understand what it was.
Again, when you're a bloody student,
right? Erin was the only student of mine I ever slept with.
For business, you have to.
That's right.
Make sure.
But no, it was really funny because like at the time, I was really transitioning from being like this like destitute freediver to like, I'm starting to make a living out of this thing properly. And
well, that's when a girl will suit you.
Well, I didn't want to. Well, look, to be fair, when Erin met me, I was living in my parents' house and I had a bright green Daewoo Lanos that had no muffler. And it was, you know what I mean? And it was the car was.
They track potential, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, she said that she used to like hear me driving up the fucking road from like
Oh, I had one of
kilometers
those
away.
things that makes it really
Hmm?
loud. Am I? Oh,
No, there was no muffler.
oh,
There was no
okay.
muffler on it. Like the muffler had rusted off. So it
Right.
was just like
I
so
know
loud.
ones, yeah.
And she used to hear me from kilometers up the road, and that's how she used to know I was on my way.
Pretty good.
Yeah. But she, so we started getting together. Well, we were hanging out because we were doing stuff for Paddy, and she basically she asked me out more than
That's
once,
right.
and
More than once.
and I was saying no, I don't think we should. I basically said no, because I was trying to be professional. I was like,
Yeah.
no, my life is getting really good. Like,
I know when they start
yeah,
to get
yeah, yeah,
scandal, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So you're kind of a contractor from like you're contracted in from by Paddy?
I was like one of their ambassadors,
Okay.
and then I was
Yeah, you don't want to
contracted.
be like, this is my first real job in the freediving world, and
Oh
I
yeah,
slept with one of their people.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
fair enough.
Or it was just like I was getting a lot of business with them. They were contracting me to do basically like it was my role at the time to train the first wave of Paddy instructors,
Okay,
and so I was
cool.
doing all that. And I was getting paid well for it, and then I was getting all these other benefits, and so didn't want to jeopardize any of that. But eventually, I just went out on the date, didn't I?
Yeah.
And that was history.
Wow.
And then
And was it a real bull like spark
oh
straight away?
yeah. Mm. Both of us fell hard and fast.
Yeah.
And after like about 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, well, you're probably gonna have to quit your job and come on the road with me. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, yeah, I travel more or less full time. So
Yeah.
if you want to be together, you're probably gonna need to quit your job and come traveling with me. And I was like, look, I'll find a way to, for freediving to support both of us. And she was like, she wasn't wasn't against it, but she wasn't like chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
She just met me, and I was
I'm
like, "Come
sure
on!"
she's a strong, independent woman.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. And then I was like, "All right, well, will you marry me?" Oh, when was it? I would no, it was like just under 3 months, and I proposed. And then from proposal, then she was like, "Okay," and then she quit, and then we were like, and then we just did the thing.
Cool.
Um,
Okay. So those
mm,
first few years, because again we're kind of going back and forth. What was the state of deep weeks and instructing?
mm.
How were you making money at that
So
stage?
that was when Deep Week really was beginning.
Okay.
Maybe well, Deep Week kind of in like more like it began in like 2015, 2016.
Mm.
I think I have to look it up,
Yeah.
but either 2015 or 2016. And it just began as these like training camps in Bali, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then yeah, that was when I was getting together with Erin. Was when Deep Week was also just beginning or just growing.
And you
And
had that huge, again, basically one of the only social media followings in really helped you
exactly,
start.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool. I mean, I'm always shocked whenever I see the emails of what the next deep weeks are, how like cute they are.
Oh yeah,
Like, obviously they're not, the number's not nothing, but
yeah.
for what it is, because I know, not only do I know the experience you get, but I also know how much it would cost to run them. I'm like,
Mm,
what is this margin there on? Like,
very small.
yeah.
Yeah, but we work on volume,
Yeah.
and
Which is a crazy thing to say that you work, and this is again entrepreneur chat, but crazy thing you say you work on volume in something as bloody niche as free.
yeah, totally
Like,
right.
ludicrous.
Yeah, totally. I think the other thing is as a person who struggled financially for most of his life, I have a very strong feeling about having high prices on things.
Mm.
And I know the right answer as far as if the end goal is just making money. I know that the right answer is raise the prices.
And you can double the prices and maybe
That's
get
right.
a third less.
That's exactly right.
30%.
That's
So you
exactly
get
right.
100% more money.
Yes, I know that's the right financial decision to make,
Yeah.
but it's not the brand, and it's
Yeah,
not
that's
what we
true.
do, and it's not what will make me happy. And so we're not doing it.
It's cool to see
Yeah.
from the outside because again, like as you just said, anyone in your position that has hundreds of thousands of followers is huge, especially in this stage where maybe back in the day it was a
Yeah.
bit hard to really crank the level.
Yes.
But now it's so primed.
Totally.
You're just not cranking it, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like we're cranking it as much as
Me and your
makes
friend.
sense. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
Like,
sure,
how
yeah.
much money does a person need?
Mm.
Or at least this is the other thing is that like I have now started other businesses that are not freediving related,
Mm.
and those businesses are not like the freediving is my baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those other businesses are financial decisions that are designed to liberate my life. But they're and but I'm not willing, and I'm happy to make financial decisions there. I'm happy to do what's best for my pocket there, but I don't think I'm gonna be happy to do it in freediving. Like freediving is where a lot of my life's passion has been derived from and been poured into. So I want to keep it pure in that sense.
Quite nicely, because I think some people will hear that and be like, "What do you mean you're doing other businesses? You're not thinking about putting all your energy into this?" But that's cool when you say, "I can look at other things."
Yeah,
trampolines there.
100%.
I'll be making money for that, and then so therefore it kind of future proofs my freediving. Is
Yes.
I never have to profiteer from it.
That's exactly right. Freediving will always be something that I look at and think and feel very proud about. That I will always look at our freediving business and be like, we're doing a good thing. If that makes sense. We are offering amazing experiences for an affordable price, so that people can come and do them many times. So that people who are not making crazy incomes can come and do them. We're never like we're never trying to like extract money from people in that regard.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so what role, if Erin was there basically from the start, what role did she play?
So Erin used to do a lot of the marketing. So Erin, obviously, that's what she studied, and she used to do a lot of the marketing, especially in the early days. She used to do all the video editing, so she'd edit all the vlogs and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. So she was all pretty much everything that was marketing.
Yeah.
And then, once the kids came along, she was being a mum. Yeah. And she still did it here and there, but when our son came along, when we had the second child, it became really hard for her to, also be productive in the business. Oh, mate, 100%. So,
talk about not turning the phone off. Like.
That's exactly her. Yeah, she never clocks off. So yeah, same thing. So
you talked a bit about never being off, and in the business sense, strictly of never being off, always being available, always thinking about it. That's always been the case. Has it been the case ever that you being in that provider role, and yes, she worked with you, but it was all kind of stem on you, your brand you've built, the personal brand you built.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Like, maybe even in your masculinity, that polarity of attraction, that like holding the base of this relationship relies on me kind of succeeding in a sense.
Totally, but that's. I mean, I've always look. I'm a person that loves pressure. No, really, I thrive under pressure. I have no issue with being under pressure. So I love that's why I loved competing. I loved the pressure. So I had never had an issue being, I suppose, the sole provider, financial provider. I didn't mind it whatsoever, and it made sense because I was making more money than Erin was. You know what I mean? So it just made sense, and it was like, I don't mind. It's like, do you mind being like, she wanted to be a full-time mum. That's all she wanted. And I was like, oh great, I can be a full-time freediver. You can be a full-time mum, and everyone's happy. So it just worked. But I know I have good friends who who really struggle with their role as being a financial provider.
Yeah.
They really struggle with the stress of it or the pressure of it. And I've had moments, you know what I mean? Like I've had sleepless nights, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that can come out not just because you were, struggling financially before and you go to your parents' house. Like, I can do that. I know I'll be fine. But fuck, now I've got the girl and she's gonna be having to decide: do I leave him or do I take the kids or do I?
No one leaves because you leave. Right, I get you. It's not a matter of I fell on my ass. It's all good. I'll move back in with my parents.
Exactly.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Your options are gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you like, if you are the person who is financially providing, you have to financially provide. In the same way that if like Erin,
she can't just say,
I don't want the fucking kids today. Like, well, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
What's going to happen with the kids? They don't disappear,
When you put it that way, I think it makes a lot more sense because it's so obvious when people say, well, the mum can't just like give up. Kids. But it's a lot less obvious to say you can't just stop making money.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's a really cool frame.
Cannot ever.
It's so funny. Yeah, I like that parallel though. It makes it a lot clearer in at least my mind.
It makes it very easy to do the things that you have to do. You know what I mean? Because like there'll be times when I do very little work, and there'll be times when like if I'm awake, I'm working, and for long periods of time. But it makes it very easy decisions to make to do that in those times, and the motivation to do it is very strong. Like as in like you don't have to motivate yourself. You're like, I'm just doing the thing. Because for whatever reason, finances, we owe this, we need to pay this, I need this money coming in, I'm doing this thing, and you just do it. and it's not unpleasant. It's not horrible. It's not whatever.
It
You don't have to be like,
is.
oh, I've got to go and do the thing. You're just doing it. Like, well, you know, in the same way that I'm hungry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a meta look at it, but
Mm,
I was listening to this thing yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and it was saying the universe just is,
yeah,
and reality, things that take place, they just are, and
yeah.
then
There's
we
no
just
reason.
assign all thoughts and emotions and
We
whatever.
want everything to mean something.
Yeah,
Not everything means anything,
yeah,
or nothing means anything.
yeah, for
You
sure.
know, like, yeah. In the end of the day, you know, my kids get hungry,
Mm,
and I need things to feed them with.
yeah. So how has fatherhood been? And
Oh,
you
it's the
mentioned
best.
plenty, but yeah,
Yeah, father's the best. Everyone should have babies. Everyone should have fucking
mm,
kids. Like, okay, number one, the amount of love you have for your kids far exceeds anything else I think a human can experience.
yeah, wow.
Um, it's interesting when you thought about like being in love and then, you know, before having kids and then how you feel love for your kids. You're like,
Mm.
how minor was my love for my wife? You know what I mean? Compared
Yeah.
to what I feel now. And it's just the best. It's an incredible experience, and it changes you fundamentally as a person in a really good way.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You become much more empathetic. You become stronger and softer at the same time because your willingness to do things and your ability to do things, like I was saying, maybe as I was describing before, like if something has to be done, it's just done.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I should do this thing because it will benefit me, and it's like, no, things happen because I have kids, and that's it. And there's a lot of power to that.
It feels
Uh,
like very like a religious person who has to just follow God. Like that's a higher
maybe,
being almost. This is
maybe,
moving into a lower being, but it's like this is a being outside of myself that I'm now
mm,
serving.
totally, yeah, and it's unquestioned.
Mm.
Yeah, no, parenthood's the fucking best.
So how has your and this might be getting
Mm,
into a bit, but from honeymoon phases with Erin, and then
yeah,
you build this relationship and travels.
yeah.
I'm sure there's all sorts of emotions and connections there, but
Oh yeah.
does that what happens to that when there's this new unbelievable
Well,
depth of love and connection with your kids?
your relationship with your partner also increases in depth because it's like you're the person that we did this with, or I did this with, right? Like, and the life that we have created hinges on each other and both of us doing our part and bringing what we can to the table. Not just like what we were talking about before, like financially and whatever, but I
Because
mean like emotionally as well. You know, like
it does
it's
sound like it would be easy for it to slip into just a utilitarian.
it can do, and there have been moments in my marriage where like I was like, oh, we're just partners in parenting, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like I think that's also really normal, especially when the kids are young, because
Mm.
honestly, the demand that the kids have on you is huge,
Yeah.
and sometimes you're just getting through the day.
Yeah.
But you know, when besides those moments, the relationship deepens significantly. It's interesting. I used to, before I had kids with someone, I used to look at marriages and people with kids, and I wouldn't understand the depth of their relationship. I would
Mm.
think of it. I would think of it in the same way that I could have a relationship with someone. I'd be, oh, you know, you love each other like I would love this girl if I was in love with her. It's like,
No,
no,
you're
no, no, no,
in
no.
it. Like,
Yeah, you are in it, and you know, you've been through wars with that person. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's a much deeper level of connection. In saying that, if it's not the right person, it is just the right kind of stress to break you. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
So yeah, in saying all that, how do you, if you, that's how you judged before a married couple, how do you now judge a divorced couple?
Well, number one, I try not to judge.
No, perceive is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
word. Yeah,
yeah.
perceive, not judge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think they gave it everything they fucking got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they probably weren't suited. That's
Mm.
probably what I think.
Are
Or,
there, because again, you're a unique individual in the way you tackle life. You go all in. You don't have time for things that necessarily aren't meaningful. And then
mm,
you married someone in 3 months, and this all seems kind of not otherworldly, but a
yeah,
bit movie-like.
yeah,
You know,
maybe,
so
maybe.
so how can someone who's a bit more normal, perhaps, right, and not in a worse or
Yeah,
better
yeah,
way,
of
but
course.
just a bit more close to the standard bell curve norm.
Yeah.
Are there any things you've thought of, maybe lessons you can extract from your extreme version of it that someone, when they're selecting a mate and whatnot, can look for?
I don't know if okay, I think that when someone is looking for a partner, I think most of what they're looking for is not some is things that they're not really aware of. You know what I mean? Like we are so primed from a young age to seek certain people,
Yeah.
to seek out little replicants of our parents or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't I don't think that I have a sweeping advice for anyone as far as relationships go. Besides just like I think the most important thing in a relationship is that like the relationship is emotionally healthy, and that you know the individuals in it are emotionally healthy, or at least if they're not, that they're doing the work on themselves to become emotionally healthy. And like going back to what you were saying about you know how do I perceive people who have been divorced, sometimes you're like, oh okay, well you two clearly weren't right for each other, and you probably shouldn't have you know got together and had kids in the first place. And other times I think to myself, oh, you know, I don't think you had the emotional tools that you probably needed to get through that hard time. Because having kids is a hard time, and there are hard times in every marriage. And you require a lot of emotional tools and a lot of emotional intelligence to navigate through the shit, you know, because there will be some big arguments that pop up that you'll think like, how the fuck can I surmount this? But if you actually like dissect your mind and your partner is dissecting their mind, then you can be like, actually, well, I haven't slept for a week and you haven't either, and so it's probably not a very big deal, and I'm just feeling this way because of this and this and this, and and let's just, you know.
That's cool. And tracking your journey, and as you said, the failures, the entrepreneur, all that stuff, it's quite clear to see at least how you could have been trained yourself by life to have that emotional maturity.
Absolutely. I think that it really started. I mean, my parents were very into self-awareness, and that was the hippie in them. And then I think that went to another level when I started investigating Buddhism as well. And then freediving, I think for me at least, was the epiphany of that, because the lessons of freediving.
Actualization of it.
That's right. Yeah. The lessons of freediving permeate life.
Yeah.
You know, so the ability to be constantly aware of yourself, your body, and how you're feeling, and to impose feelings on your body. So as in like, oh, I'm feeling the stress rise. No, I will impose the relaxation on my body. And to be able to feel anxiety and have the power to strip it away.
Play an active role in your emotional state.
Yes, absolutely. Emotional and physical. And so that's the lesson that freediving taught me a lot of, and that's what I've been able to apply to all of my life.
Great one.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I think freediving is great for life.
Yeah.
Like, really great. I think that it is a really overt and obvious example of developing like physical and emotional awareness. Yeah, we get to do it in this really. It's not like we're not sitting here just discussing our feelings. We get like a physical and immediate representation. Like, you know, I'm getting tense, I'm getting anxious, and my chest will tighten, right? And I need to be able to soften the thing again. Otherwise, I will not be able to keep going deeper.
Well, I think it's Tony Robbins who says when he makes changes in a person's emotional state and then their story of
You'll
life,
see their physical.
he links it to a physical thing, like doing a push-up or
Yeah.
screaming or whatever happening. And that kind of tracks.
Yeah.
So if you got yourself there through freediving, and this isn't her interview, and maybe there's things you don't want to reveal, but did Erin was she born like that? Was that her life? Did you kind of look at her?
No, Erin is extremely emotionally intelligent. And there's a reason why she is that way, and it's not my place to say why.
Exactly, yeah.
But there's a reason why Erin is extremely emotionally intelligent. It's not a bad reason or whatever. It's nothing crazy. It's just not my story to share.
We'll get her on next time.
Yeah.
No, very cool. And then, real quick, you also, just along that, how do you perceive divorce people? This might be a harder one to answer, but how do you perceive people who, like, and it's very rare, give up on kids and stuff? Or like,
I don't understand that one, to be honest. Personally, I don't understand how people give up on their kids. I really struggle to comprehend. But look, I suppose everyone's on their journey. But my brain kind of backflips at that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that would take me away from my kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't really comprehend how that.
Is there a way, other than that, is there a way, because I've also, and I've probably been thinking about this too much
Yeah.
for the position I'm in, but which is a long way away from that. But
Well, you never know.
yeah, you know.
Yeah,
But it's an idea if you can't, as long as you kind of are there and you intend, you can't really stuff up parenting because even if they have a bad childhood, they can end up good. And
I mean,
like, is there a way
I
you
think
think you can
I
stuff it
think
up or do it really well?
yeah, fuck yeah, you can stuff up parenting. I mean,
Yeah.
like, look,
What are you avoiding and what are you going
well, look, I think that humans are infinitely reprogrammable,
for?
so that when people come into adulthood, they have the ability to deal with anything they dealt with in their childhood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, there are ways to be bad parents. Absolutely. What am I avoiding? I'm avoiding being selfish. I'm avoiding ignoring my kids. I'm avoiding, having being emotionally reactive with my kids. You know what I mean? Like there will be times when they make me very angry, but they don't know that.
This is just my chest
Yeah,
tightening.
yeah, 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 yeah. All the things
Yeah.
you're just gonna be there for. You have to look. You have to accept them for who they are because they come out, honestly, they come out as they are. You know what I mean? Like my daughter and my son have been who they are from the day they were
Yeah, you
born.
talked
And
about your daughter, man. It
yeah,
sounds bad.
even in the womb, they were the same. They had little personalities in the womb, with the way that they kicked and moved around and all that jazz. You have to let them be who they are. You have to empower them to be who they are.
Yeah.
Uh, that's your role, I think, for the most part, as a parent, is to just like guide your kids and empower them to be who they are. And the guidance as well is, you have to let them have their hands on the wheel for a
Yeah.
lot of that. Um,
I guess where my mind goes to track it onto your own story
mm.
is that you ended up in Vietnam having thought, oh my God, like, I need to do this crazy adventure and stuff because I've had such a good life. Like, you're going to have some problem when you're
Oh
21,
yeah, yeah, of course.
but it's better to have that problem than I had such a shit, like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. I'd much rather be seeking the discomfort because everything was so comfortable than yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Look, in the end of the day, if I could dream up the dream life for my kids, it would be that they would just have everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want my kids to have everything. I don't want them to have to work.
Yeah.
I want them to.
But
And people say,
we see that happen in so many kids, and then they just like the trust fund baby and
sure, but I think there's two. I think there's good trust fund babies and bad trust fund babies.
the ones that have good values, eh?
Yeah, and look, I don't think that working is inherently good. Do you know, I don't think that is. I think that, like, being occupied or is good, or like having things to pour your life and your energy and your time into is good. But I don't think going to work is inherently good. I don't think entering a financial system is inherently good, and I don't think that it's what I want my kids doing. If I could have my way, my kids would be independently wealthy
Yeah.
and motivated to do something that gave their life meaning and joy, and they'd do that all their life, and they wouldn't worry about whether they could afford this or that or whatever. That would be my goal in
You
life.
sound like I imagine that those lines coming from royalty. I've never heard that come from a normal person.
No, because people think
Yeah.
that because I did it, it was they want to justify their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've worked much harder in my life than I want my kids to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't work that hard, or at least didn't feel that way because I was always really loving it. I never did a 9 to 5. I never did all that. No, but I think I think it's very easy to get caught in the idea that, like, well, I had this in my life, and therefore there has to be some value to it. So no. Like, you don't want to be a trust fund kid. You don't want to be, you don't want to be one of those people that, like, never actually had to go to work. There's great lessons. They need to learn how to value money. Why? Why would you? Money is bullshit.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, why is it inherently good to value money? You know what I mean? Like, it has the value you attribute to it. It's just an exchange of fucking value. So if I had more of the value to give my kids so they don't have to spend their life doing shit they don't want to do, like, all we have in life is time. There's only time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How you spend your time. Because when you die, you die. As far as, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll die into a fucking pit of oblivion and you'll never exist again in your current...
abyss.
Yeah, that's right. So I want them to enjoy their time.
That's monumental.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of stopped me in my tracks. I guess my last question, I reckon, this has been great, is that I've asked this to most,
Yeah.
but some would say God. You might say your kids if
Mm.
that's a guess. But to what entity, above all else, when everything else fades away, do you consider yourself most responsible to?
Oh, I don't think anything. If you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
my family. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like I'm responsible to my family.
No one answers this really good straight off the bat. It's just a
Yeah. No, like I'm responsible to my family. I'm responsible,
or answerable to rather.
answerable to.
Answerable, like when you're in the depth, or when you're at Heaven's Gate, for instance, and they're checking out, oh, well, how did you live your life, Adam? Who are you? Like, oh, I'm answerable to God.
No, I mean I'm an atheist,
Yeah.
and I think that nothing in life has inherent meaning.
Mm.
So I believe that that if that meaning is something that humans attribute to things,
Mm.
and I suppose as my life has gone on, I've developed my own moral code. So I suppose I'll be answerable to my own moral code. That's
Yeah.
really about it.
Oh, I don't want to get us into a full philosophical thing, but the one thing I see with that is that it must be such a weight, or it really is hard to create your own moral code. It's so much easier to outsource it to someone else who's already done it.
I mean, yes and no. I mean,
Yeah.
where did that one come from?
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know.
Maybe it's touching on an eternal truth that people have manifested over thousands of years.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Works for you.
Yeah, it works for me. It works for
Yeah.
me, and I like uh I'm a person that is, I suppose, like I think it might also be like tied to my nature, which is to want to be self-motivated, self sufficient,
Mm.
self-sufficient. Yeah, to not, you know what I mean, to have low dependence on the world and people around me. I never felt a need to like find a moral code
Yeah.
that
Do you do
that, you know
anything?
what I mean. I think I always had a very strong sense of justice
Yeah.
from my own standpoint, and I feel horrible if I go against something I believe in. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I keep myself on my own path based on how I feel about
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. Do you have anything else that you can?
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sitting in a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
What do you call this? Hinterlands of Sydney or something?
Well, this is the Yarramalong Valley. It's the hinterland of the Central Coast. Yeah, Sydney.
Mate,
Yeah.
I was just driving here. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this
Yeah.
is doing it right.
It's nice. It's very
It's
nice.
epic. Well, thanks for that, man. I
Of
think
course.
I asked everything I wanted to ask.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call wifey now and tell her to
But
come back and let's do some gardening.
do you need a hand, guy?